Okay, well, we're back with another day of work on our 8th grade personalized flag or banner, our design project. If you've been keeping up with the instruction, you are familiar with this worksheet that we're trying to work our way down and include all these 10 elements of art and principles of design, being able to answer the questions for the requirements, you know, what it needs in each one of these. Then we came up with an idea. So on some legal-sized printer paper, we sketched out our ideas and tagged in the colors, which has really done a great deal of how to added some efficiency to the way that we're doing this project. And so this is what I've got so far. Now you're free to work with me and design the same project I'm doing, or you can come up with something different on your own. Don't have an issue with that, so long as it includes all of the various elements and principles that are described in the worksheet there, and also that it you know, it shows some sort of level of effort in it. So when we left off yesterday, I had finished up several parts of my piece of concept work. I noticed this piece of this line right here actually passes in front of the mountain. In my piece of my design piece here, my layout piece, it's behind the mountain. So that just caught my eye the other day, or the last session, excuse me. So I'm going to erase that out because it's messing with me. Alright. And of course dust it off. Now that looks much better when it's colored over. That will look fantastic. Alright, now I think when I left off yesterday, I was still working on my letters in the box up here in the upper left-hand corner, and so I'm going to continue that today and continue to just really take on more of the easy subject matter, working my way from the general to the specific. And in this particular case, it looks like we're ready to take on the letter M and then do some erasing to you know, make sure that those little notches in there that are very visually interesting are preserved. After that, I guess we're going to start on the picture of, I'm hoping, the state of Ohio, or maybe some other symbol that works for that as well. Okay, let's move this off the side for now. Make sure this is focused, and it appears to be. Alright, so let's get back to work here. So my letter M, the way it shows on my project sheet, is that the upper portion of the K passes in front of the other portion of the M, and this top portion of the M is just a little bit lower, almost level with the top of the B. So I'm going to kind of just look at that like this. I think it's, well, that's not bad. And then start I'm just kind of going around the outline of this if I can. And it looks like it breaks out of the square, which is a good thing. That's always visually interesting to look at, and that corner sticks out somewhere about into here, it looks like. And then I can simply draw that at an angle, making sure it's parallel with the other edges of the letters as well. Now in this case you can see it disappears behind the banner, so I will have to address that when it comes time to draw the banner in. But now I'm going to go ahead and use my ruler here and kind of bold up some of these lines so they're a little bit more visible on the projection screen. That's much better, much easier to see. Now this I can probably freehand accurately. Same with this one. Gotta raise that line just a hair because this is just a little bit lower than it should be. Okay, so I'm gonna take care of that with my eraser there. Erase this portion out where it's obscured because this letter M is breaking out of the box, and really trim this up just a little bit right there so I don't inadvertently forget about it. Okay, so yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, so each day it seems to me that the more we work on these, the better our production skills get, the better your eye-hand coordination gets. You've already thought through a lot of the issues that you would want to have with this anyway, and all of these things are good developments, and we really haven't been on this project that long, although sometimes it seems like we've been here forever. Okay, so this, you can see that little triangle in there, right? So we're going to create that little triangle, and it's not quite symmetrical, but sometimes these things happen. I'm going to leave it like it is. I might just go back and tighten that up a little bit with the ruler as well. Hold that line. While I'm at it, why not take care of the letter K? So if you want these to have that distinctly angular, blocky look, then you really do need to go back and address parts of it and tighten your lines, because it already makes a big effect just by doing that. Alright, now let's continue the letter M. In this case, it looks like we can see a little bit of the upper portion, and that would just disappear down here, this three-dimensional effect. And then it looks like I can see down here, so I've got to start my next portion of my letter M. And it should be straight down from this notch right here. And it should be symmetrical, if you can make it look that way. Easier said than done periodically. So now, once again, I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to try to match that line. And I'm going to leave a little bit of it off, because that's where my banner is going to be cutting a lot of that off here anyway. So I'm trying to estimate the exact same distance from here to here. That looks pretty good. I'm going to work backhanded this time. Okay. Alright. That is almost exactly like the concept piece. Alright, now in this piece, what I've done, it looks like the bottom of this is like the M, the bottom of the M and the bottom of the K are the same letter, and that's kind of neat. So I'm going to leave that, and now I've got some other issues right here to address, and so that would be this right here should be visible, and then it comes up like this as a notch. So maybe I'll tilt that down a little bit more dramatically to get more dramatic effect out of it. That's pretty good right there. I'm going to leave that alone, try to touch up that area. Well, that's not bad at all. Okay, I've got to go back and dress the lines up. And that looks fantastic. And then if we were looking at the original concept piece, we can see that there's a three-dimensional edge to that as well. Now sometimes you just gotta check these things out carefully when you're drawing them, just so that you don't visually confuse everybody that is attempting to understand your work. So I'm going to let that line alone. That's not too bad. Okay, I'm going to live with that. Now let's go back and erase some of the lines at the layout work in this, and so that would be up here, so that we're faithfully reproducing what we spend our time planning. Or at least, you know, some things will change for sure when you make a piece of artwork. However, you want to stay, you know, faithful to the original concept. If you start changing everything, you eventually end up losing track of the whole reason you were making it to begin with. Okay, let's see. On the letters, too, we can see the split line in the background, but we can't see it through the letters. The letters are not transparent. In this case, we can see that split line in there. Okay. And that one has a little bit, that's kind of more, I'm going to leave that alone. It shows in the original drawing that there's a little bit of color above it and below it. So that's kind of visually interesting. And then this one stays in up here on the other side of the bead. Okay, this is all looking pretty good. It's going to be beautiful. Gotta have faith. Okay, not bad. Now I'm betting that whatever this line is in here, it's not supposed to be there either, because it's interrupting the flow of the letters there. Okay, so the B comes down like this, and the K is tightened up like this. Alright, let's get this out of here. Start on with our banner next. So if you're staying up with me, or making the same, if you're making the project that I'm making, then we're doing pretty well here production-wise while it's time. wise. Alright, now in my opinion, this seems to be the next place to go with this. And so as this, above this little shield right here is where the midpoint of that this banner would be, and it looks like there's about this much space in between there, so I'm going to put a little registration dot right there. Furthermore, this is, you know, pretty thick from the top to the bottom, so I'm going to go ahead and actually put my top of my banner somewhere right on that line so it curves upward. Now, what I've got to do is I'm going to start here, and I'm going to kind of make a smiley face, and it goes to this portion right here, and it stops at that line. If we were to walk this line down here, we'd see where it touches that at. So now we've got to make a similar curve over here, and if we kind of estimate this distance to about right here, it looks like that's about correct. We'll know when we make the line, but sometimes you just got to sketch your way along. Alright. That's pretty good. So, and we want this to be symmetrical, meaning it looks the same on both sides. Now we're going to try to reproduce that exact same marking again down here, and we're ignoring some of these lines we'll be drawing through, but we will erase them momentarily. So this is a good one right here. Okay, and we'll try to make almost the exact same curvature here if we can make that happen. This is thinner, so gotta pooch it out there a little bit more. That's better. Alright, let's erase some of this work, so see what we came up with. Not bad. And the banner obscures this line that was behind it, so as we develop the piece of artwork, we're able to take out a lot of the original layout work. Okay, this is interesting here. Okay, I'm going to go back and dust this off. I really need to use a slip sheet now because the back of my hand is getting really very dirty. Okay, I got to ask myself, does this look pretty much even on both sides? They're symmetrical, and I'm going to say it's pretty close, so I'm going to just bold those lines just a bit. This one might be riding a little bit low, so maybe if I trim that line back just a bit and touch it up. Alright, that looks pretty good. Now I can start doing the little flag areas, the little flappy parts, and so this would be about slip sheet. This looks like in here that it's just to the left of this particular vertical line. So we're going to kind of put it in there about right here, I guess. Looks about right. Now we've got to take almost that same line and put one in over here. So we've got to estimate from here to here and then from here to here. So it looks like to me that that's about the right place for this. And then if I had to estimate over here, it'd be about like this, it looks like to me. So we put our mark and observe what we've done. Now you can always take your ruler, see, and I'm just going to see if these two things are level with each other. So if that's the top of one and the top of the other, it doesn't appear to be level. So I think I'm just going to erase just a scrap of this line off. Now let's see what it does. Now if I put it on top of each line, that's pretty much level. I'm going to go with it. Okay, now we've got to do the part of our banner here that is kind of flapping in the wind here. So it's kind of it's curled around is what it's supposed to represent. So I'm going to tighten that line up, tighten this line up, and we're going to just simply draw a lazy S. And then down here another lazy S. It needs to match. It needs to be about this thick too. So I'll go about halfway down. Yep, that's looking pretty good. And then I'm going to estimate about halfway down and put a dot, a little registration dot in there. Okay. Now, sometimes you gotta. Okay, that definitely looks like it's flapping around in the wind. We want the other one to be pretty much a mirror image of it. So lazy S goes almost to the edge of the picture. About right here is the other portion where we'll have just the back scrap of that lazy S. Okay, and I'm taking it, I think, all the way to the edge of the picture here. That'll be interesting. Then about halfway down, move in just a little bit, put a dot, and then we'll cut in our notch. There we go. Alright, now, if I've done it right, those two should look almost the same. And even if it's not done right perfectly, well, that's something I'll address as I go through the coloring portion of this. Okay, so what we got. This goes away. This line right here will not be visible. Okay, it looks like I need to just kind of bold that up a little bit. This line right here, this little dot is killing me. Okay, there we go. Now, let's see. I think I'm going to have to look at this for a minute. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I'm starting to see my concept is starting to develop really pretty nicely here. So let's keep on working here. And I think I'll leave the lettering out for now that I've got this kind of blocked into the right place. And I do feel the need to kind of darken, tighten my lines a little bit here. I'm using my slip sheet so it's smear my work. Okay, this looks pretty good right there on the edge. This looks pretty good over here. This has got to go. Okay, dress it back up again. So these are, it's looking pretty good. I'm pretty well pleased with it. Okay, so we've got that part done. Let's see what we've got. Okay, we've got most of the major elements already in it, so I can start doing maybe some work at the top of the picture here about where my father's side of the family is from, and that would be Louisiana. Now, I represented that in my concept work as kind of a swampy area with trees and floating old floating logs and stuff, so I think it's about time to maybe get that put in there as well, since I've already got the mountains for my mother's side of the family. Now, what we're really attempting to do here is make a statement about ourselves and what we believe in and what's important to us, just like you would if you had your own country and that country had its own flag, because I think they all do. So you can learn a lot by looking up the flags of other countries and then doing a little research on what those symbols that are in those flags represent. And a lot of times it has to do with the natural boundaries between them and other countries, such as mountains. A lot of times it's got to do with their actual history of the culture of the people that live there, like the first natives that lived in those lands. And so there's a flag, although it looks like it's just a bunch of colors and shapes, which it is also a representation of the beliefs and the cultural things that are culturally important to the people that the flag represents. I need to get this kind of fixed up here. I never did finish that. Here we go. And then this goes. There's the three-dimensionality thing working for me. Okay, now that I've done that, that means I have to also get rid of a couple lines. So you start looking back at your concept work, and you can notice if you've forgotten things or neglected some stuff. And in this case, what I forgot and neglected was these lines that are underneath the openings of the letters M and a K. Okay, and I believe that is it. I believe that is it. Let's dust it off. Take another good look at it. I think that is the solution. All right, starting to look good. Now, where we're going to talk about Louisiana and start getting that worked out. Now, in the concept piece, I have this line or this stripe that's in black that passes behind my interest and kind of snakes its way along until it hits over here. So I'm going to try to get that line put in there, and let's see, it passes behind here, it looks like, and then goes down and curves back up again. So I'm trying to get it the same thickness if I can, and so this one kind of goes down here and it passes behind this. Okay, and then it comes out of that almost flat over here. Okay, and then it's got kind of a hook to it right here. And then it comes over like this again. Alright. And then it hooks back down again. Okay, and then it turns again and goes off until it hits right here and stops. Huh. Okay. Now we've got to kind of reproduce this same kind of curvature here like this. Okay. 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 Alright. I can see how that's going to work now. Alright. Here we go. Alright. Now all I got to do is kind of go around here and kind of mess with my some erasing there a little bit, and I feel pretty good about that whole little operation right there. So just clean some of that out of there, clean this off of there, clean some of this out of here, touch that up. Okay, now we gotta get this touched up. There we go. Alright, it only takes one mark with the pencil sometimes to make a huge difference in the outcome of a project. So now this part right here touches this layout line there that defines that block with the initials. Now it kind of pulls your eye along through this picture, which is really part of the idea of movement, which is one of the 12 or the 10 elements of art and principles of design. All right, now I can start doing other things, like I've got a couple of trees and a floating log in there to set up. And my trees go all the way off the edge of the picture. I think that's kind of neat too. So I'm going to put one that looks like it's tucked in right here. And it just, we're going to draw. These are supposed to represent cypress trees that kind of grow right up out of the water and the mush and stuff down in the swamps of Louisiana. So it's kind of scary in those places. So I'm getting a pretty interesting piece of work here starting to pull itself together. And there's another one of these roots there. And so this tree is pretty stout. Some of these cypress trees are hundreds of years old down there. I got to get up in here. Here we go. Straight up and down. That's how the trees like to grow. Or at least that's how we want them to look. Okay, not bad. Now I can erase some of this out and begin kind of dressing up my tree roots there a little bit. They're a little bit skippy, so let's dust it off. Okay, so I think what I'm looking at here is I'm going to have to make some of these roots kind of go off at a slightly different angles. It's but that's a common part of when you're making a piece of artwork, that you discover these things. It looks more natural sometimes if you just keep letting the pencil kind of work its way around the parts of your drawing that you might be struggling with. Okay, so we're not trying to make the perfect tree, we're trying to make a tree that looks like it lives in the swamps of Louisiana. Kind of a scary tree. It's got gators swimming around in it and snakes in it. All kinds of other mayhem. him. Okay, so this looks pretty good. Okay. Okay, let's dust it. Okay, that was pretty good. Now, on my concept piece, I have something carved in here, so I'm going to probably just leave a spot there and decide whether I want to do that later, but it says LA, which is the abbreviation for Louisiana on the post office. Alright, we had another tree, and this tree appears to be kind of protruding. If we look at the concept piece, it touches the circle just to the left of the top portion of that circle, so somewhere about right in here it looks like. And I'm going to simply try to think tree when you're drawing. I just want to run off the paper. And this portion over here, will also kind of drop down behind one of the circles that is going to contain the little mini pictures of my interests. I'm hoping that, if you're drawing along with me, you actually have already thought about what your 8 interests that are important to you are. And I think that's kind of something to really contemplate as you become a little older. What is the thing that interests you? What is it you would do almost for free if you instead of calling it your job? I mean, if you find something to do like drawing, painting, making music, and you would do that for free, and you can make that into your job, wow, you're going to be a pretty happy employee. So when I'm working on making art, I'm usually really pretty happy. I'm productive. I see the labor, the effort that I'm doing begin to work, and that's a really gratifying experience. And the fact of the matter is, if you find something to do that you really like, you probably won't feel like you're going to work. There's people in the world that cannot stand their jobs. They hate their jobs. Probably somebody may say that. But my job is pretty neat. I'm pretty happy, and I'm a little bit struggling with the whole idea that we're not in a physical classroom, because the physical classroom, I believe, is the better way to learn, and the actual art studio is the best way to do these things. And so that's just my opinion, but I've taught a lot of students over the years, and they seem to do best when they are under the direct guidance of somebody that can give them advice right there on the spot when they make a mistake. When you're doing e-learning, especially with something like an art lesson, it's not so easy to get that criticism that's going to help you draw a better picture if your instructor can't see it readily. Alright, that's looking pretty good. Now in the concept piece, I've also got a little log over here floating in there with a turtle on it. So I'm going to attempt to get my floating log in there. Maybe something like this. Now it kind of sticks out at an angle. This is kind of a little bit more compressed area over in here than on my concept piece. Okay, so we want to make this like broken and dangerous looking. Okay, so that it's if you hit it with your canoe, you'd have problems. All right, or you'd be canoeing around in the swamp like this. But we want it to look kind of scary. So it could be a broken off tree sticking up out of the water. It could have been a tree that fell over in the water. It could have been just a log, that was long ago a tree, but then it's floated away. So in Louisiana, there's lots of danger lurking underneath the surface of some of the bodies of water down there. Okay, that kind of looks like it might be alright. Let's erase that portion off there. And then dust it and see what we got. Yeah, it looks pretty scary, doesn't it? So, sometimes you just gotta, and I'll bet if I were to look at this accurately, I'll bet I could see stuff like this on the other side of my broken log. But does it read properly? I don't think so. I'm gonna have to just leave it there. If I want that kind of effect, I'll probably have to just add another chunk of something in there to make it look the way I want it to go. Okay. Oh, that's not too bad. I'll leave that. Now I look at the concept piece, and it's actually, this is a little bit longer over here, and this, the water is kind of flowing around it like this. So that means I can take this part out. Okay. Now, okay, so alright, so sometimes you just got to keep going back and manipulating what you were seeing here and what you're trying to do, because it doesn't always just work out on the very first mark with the pencil. And then let's see, this kind of wobbles along because it's just this object floating in the water here. And maybe have it kind of come back like this again over here. Okay, so that's kind of the water flowing along in there. And then we've got some more stripes of water flowing along in here. So that's all this is representing, is just when we color it in, this will be like reflections in the water that just kind of show which way the water is flowing. Alright. Okay, this could probably... And maybe this one in the background there can also kind of end right here if there's a little block. Okay, maybe some stuff in the background here. Oh, yeah, I didn't leave that flat. I kind of rippled that line along back in there, so it's just barely kind of rising up and down. Kind of not that sharp horizon line. Okay, and then it's flat over here, so I'll leave that alone. Okay, that looks pretty good. So let's go through and dress up some of our markings there. Yeah, and here we go again. So I'm going to just keep working from the general to the specific, and that's going to be the method that I work with, because you get stuck on a detail and you may never even finish the project. But if you get the whole thing drawn and laid out, you're much more likely to continue working with it. Okay, so that's part of the purpose of doing planning, is so you can kind of visualize what you're seeing prior to having to actually create it. Okay, there we go. So it looks like this empty space back in here really needs some sort of work as well here. So okay, kind of reminds me of snakes in the Lake Bistineau area there. All right, ooh, that does look kind of scary. Okay, I'm impressed with that. So let's see if we got anything to dust off here. Looks pretty good so far. Okay, let's see where we're at with this. Well, we're kind of starting to run out of things to the simple things, the large objects and the simple things. I think I'll go over here and do my Zodiac sign here next. So in this case, I'm going to turn this into a block letter, meaning what a lot of kids would call a bubble letter, but it's very stripy. So I'm going to put that curve on the end of it like this, and I'm going to try to draw the exact same shape again in the lower section, just reversed, so it's more of a sad face. And I'm looking at the design piece, or the concept piece, and it's down here. So if I were to use my ruler and just kind of get an idea where this is going to happen at, it's probably going to happen down in here. Same thing over with this one. I'm going to have it. It looks like it might be, oh, it's going to be over top of the stripe. Okay, that's good. Okay, here we go. So this is more of a sad face look. Here we go. Okay. So when I erase all this, I will have a letter that I can actually color inside of, and this will be in front of the shield, and furthermore in front of the mountain. So the shield shape kind of just looks like we can see through it a bit. I guess that's the effect I'm trying to get here. And this is okay, let's find out what we got here. So does that look even symmetrical? It's pretty close. And then let's see if these line up. If they don't, we can touch them up. That does, and that does too. So, isn't that funny? It looks like it's slightly larger on the bottom here than the top portion. So we're going to just molding those lines a little bit once I get what I want. Okay, now I've got to try to put these portions right here. If you look at this and like this, they're parallel, 4 lines or 2 stripes, if we want to think of it that way. And I'm going to probably try to do it like this, and here as well, like that. Maybe I'm trying to look at how far this is up here and estimate accurately where the other portion of it's going to end up at. So it looks like here and here, really. It's hard to estimate. Sometimes you might just have to sketch along until you get what you think you're looking for. Okay, I'm going to simply drop this straight down. Same again here, and I'll carefully erase out portions of it. Now this one right here may cause me to redraw portions of the... I got to put my sheet underneath here so I don't mess up this drawing. Okay. Well, I don't know really too bad. I think if there's any criticism I have of it is this portion of it doesn't bend down quite far enough aggressively. So it does look like it's starting to... It looks pretty symmetrical. And you can make fine adjustments as you go along with everything you do. And so a complicated drawing, which this kind of is just a series of constant adjustments that you make to your idea. Something called, most people wouldn't, I would call it trial and error, which is a very instructive way to learn things. If you mess up on, that's how you learn a lot about video games that kids love so much, is they are playing the video game, they mess up, and then they have to return to a previous portion of the game, and until they stop messing up, they can't advance. And so that's what we call trial and error. You finally learn it, or somebody reveals it to you, like a card trick. So all of these ideas that we're using are not complex. They are simply new learning for a lot of people, and as a result of that, they find that making artwork is very stressful in some cases to them. What they believe what they are hoping they'll achieve, and what their limited skill level allows them to achieve, are not really the same. And that's where people get frustrated, and they become lifelong people who think they cannot draw or paint or anything else. All right, that looks pretty good. I'm really pretty satisfied with that. So my symbol for Gemini came out pretty nice. Now I'm starting to run out of some of the simplistic stuff to do, so I'm going to have to move on to the maybe down here. The symbol for my mother is the same as for most people. This is the symbol for femininity or womanhood, and so it's an ankh, I think. And if you paid attention in social studies class in the Far East. Not the Far East, but in the Middle East. Came out of Egypt, as I recall. And then up here is our symbol for masculinity or malehood, or your father. So I'm going to go ahead and try to get this in here with my. So I'm going to just loosely kind of draw an oval-y shape to begin with, an ellipse. And I just go around these ovals. I just, you know, go around until I get the shape I'm looking for, and then you can erase everything else. And then I'm going to put a symmetrical, concentric oval in the middle of that. It looks to me like this is kind of leaning a little bit to one way or the other, so I'm going to have to kind of unlean it. So I'm going to, there we go, and maybe erase portions of it off, which is also a regular part of making a piece of artwork, is constantly adjusting the line so that you come out with what you intended. So in the physical classroom, we do a mental exercise about unity. Wow, that is the bell already. So we're going to finish up this particular portion of this, and then we will get back to this project. And it is making really good progress. If you're keeping up with my pace of production, and you should almost be done with the full drawing by now. It won't be long, maybe a day or maybe slightly longer, until we are going to begin the coloring. So we'll clean this drawing up at that point, and then we will begin to color it in. So I'm going to get this symbol for my mother's feminine. Okay, there we go. Now let's put this right here. Okay, and we'll just put the little transept that goes across it right here. It should be about the same thickness here. And here we go again. On the other side. So, really, quite simple when you know how it's done. We will erase this little piece out of there and touch up the work. And that's how these things are done. About 38 minutes at a time. Now, if you were in an adult class, you would be expected to be able to go on for hours at a time like this. But as far as middle schoolers go, if you've been working 38 straight minutes, that's a pretty good work session right there. So let's dust this, see what happens. Looks pretty good. Probably try to get rid of some of this right here. Okay, there we go. Dust it out. Well, that looks pretty good. I think that's it's been a productive session so far today. So it's coming along. If you're doing the project exactly the way I'm doing it, and you got this far today, I'm impressed. So we've got the swamp, we've got the mountains, we've got the symbol for my mother and her flag, and I'm going to next session we'll go up here and put in some more information, and we should be and settle in on that picture of Ohio that's going to go in the middle of there, or whatever it is I decide to put in there. So it's been a good session. See you next time.